lot of people ask me about first dates. People have trouble with them where, for whatever reason, they go out on a date and, things don't seem to go too well. They don't get a call back, or the person starts acting weird after the first date. And, people want to know, what is it that I can do to make the first date go smoothly? And what are some of the things that I might be doing that's making it not go so smoothly? Well, I got 3 things that I normally see people do throughout the years that I've been doing this that kind of sabotages a date. So here are 3 things that you probably shouldn't do on a first date. Number 1, don't bring friends. This is something that I constantly see go left. A lot of people bring a friend or try to do a double date, something like that, because they think it makes them feel more comfortable. They're like, well, if I got my friend here, then I got somebody that can make sure the conversation keeps flowing. I got somebody who can ask some questions, help me screen this person, things like that. I totally get that. But here's the problem. Anytime you add something, you add a variable. And when you add another person, you add an uncontrollable variable. I don't care what you think you have going with your friend. You don't have mind control over them. You can't be like, summon them and make them do exactly what you want them to do. They're going to do what they want to do. So sometimes a friend might think they're helping you by asking a person a bunch of questions and get a little too personal, start grilling the person, and maybe even in some cases get disrespectful. Sometimes friends might think they're aiding the conversation, but they're actually taking all of the attention off of you and putting it on them. Now the person is talking to your friend more than they're talking to you. You don't even get to know the person in the situation. Sometimes your friends can just outright embarrass you. They could get drunk. They could do all kind of things because it's not their date. It's your date. So they're trying to have a good time also, and they may not feel like they're reflecting on you with some of the things that they're doing. They may bring up some stories trying to be funny and start saying some bad things about you. Or they might say some things, in asking questions that really reveal a bit too much. Like, well, you better not dog her like all the rest of the guys did where you just hit it and quit it. Hey, whoa. Hey, man, you better not be like his last girl and leave him broken and crying on the floor and walking down through the park butt naked, drunk. You better not treat him like that. Whoa, bro. You see what I'm saying? So friends are uncontrollable. So don't bring friends and family, outside people to a situation. It can maybe work out, but too many variables, and it's generally not a good look. Number 2 is bad locations. Try to avoid bad locations. And I'm going to give you some examples. Places that you can't leave. If the date isn't going exactly the way you want it to, you don't want to be trapped on a riverboat. You don't want to be trapped on an airplane. You don't want to be somewhere where you just can't go home. You can't possibly leave. You want to make sure you can leave the location. Also, places that are familiar. This is still in the bad location. I'm just giving you a few examples, so you can kind of go with that. So this is still number 2 for those of y'all that are going to want to correct me. Wait, you actually had this many. No, it's still number 2. Places that are too familiar. It's nice to go to a familiar place because it makes you feel comfortable. But when you go to a familiar place, you can run into people you know. You may not want people to know this person yet, or to even know that you're on a date. You might run into somebody who hates on you. You might run into an ex. You might run into friends and family members that will cause number 1 to happen, where now friends and family members then horned in on your date in some kind of way, and they're doing all the things I talked about earlier. You want to make sure that you pick a place that you're comfortable with, but you don't want to pick a place that's just too familiar. Houses. Whether you're a man or a woman, you generally don't want to go to your house because, first of all, you don't really want people to know where you live when you just went out on a first date with them. You don't know somebody until you start seeing them in a personal setting. Even if y'all are cool or y'all know each other from the office or something like that, how people are at work and how people are at home is 2 totally different things. I'm sure most of us know that already because we might be on that Hennessy at the crib, but all straight-laced at the job. So you get what I'm saying? You feel me? So you want to make sure that you don't go to a house, whether you're a man or a woman, because you don't want to make it seem like it's about sex. That could offend the lady, or that can make the dude just start trying to get the draws rather than being in a real date, or it may even offend the guy. Heck, you never know. So, or it may make the woman just want to get the draws. You never know. Shoot. So you got to make sure that you don't go to houses, because that's really, it can get a little sticky, and it can be a problem going forward. So watch that location. Make sure you pick a good location for yourself, somewhere you're comfortable with, a good restaurant, a museum, something like that, whatever it is you're comfortable with. But make sure you pick somewhere that, doesn't have some hidden issues that you might run into that can make the date go sideways. Number 3, making demands. You got to understand that you don't really know this person like that. Like I said before, even if you know him from the job, even if you know him from church, whatever the case is, you don't really know this person. You are just now getting to know them. So if you're going to go on a date with somebody, you don't want to start making demands. You don't want to start saying things like, well, I want to make sure my man pays all of the bills in our relationship. Or I want a woman that's going to cook 24 hours a day. Or I want a girl that's going to pay all the bills. Or I want a man that's going to cook. You don't want to start saying things like this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you don't want to talk about things that you want, but you don't want to start making demands. You don't want to start saying, I expect you to do this. I expect you to do that. You want to talk about things that you like and don't like, but you don't want to start trying to push that on this other person, trying to make demands about things you want, things you don't want. Because the reality is, a lot of times people will adjust once they get to know you and you've built some equity. But when you haven't, they can't really do that, because they don't really know you. So you can't be like, hey, you need to meet my mom's tomorrow, or hey, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or this is what I demand we do on this date, or I demand you spend this much money on me, or I demand you go here, or I demand. You can't really do that because you're not in a position where you know the person well enough, or they know you well enough to be invested enough to meet your demands. A lot of times you just end up looking like a fool. It's okay to talk about some of the things that you want going forward. It's okay to kind of say, hey, this is kind of where I'm at and what I like. I like old fashioned stuff, or I like this, or I like that. It's okay to talk about yourself and things of that nature, but you don't want to demand anything from somebody, especially when it's a first date and they don't really know you and you've not built any equity to be able to make a demand. This is a good way to get yourself not called back or dumped, even if the person would have done the things that you wanted them to do in the future. So no demands, none of that. Now, of course, there are plenty of other things you can do on first dates that can mess them up. And sometimes you can do these things and actually still come out pretty well. But I'm just saying, if you want to play the odds and you want to put yourself in a situation where you're more likely to be successful, these things have proven over time to not work out for people. And this is for me just talking to thousands and thousands of people, getting first date information, figuring out what people tell me works and what doesn't work, from what doesn't work, also from my own experiences and from the experiences of friends. So you want to make sure that you look at some of these things. Like I said before, it may work for you no matter what you do, and hey, that's great. But I'm just saying, if you want to play the odds and have a better date, these are some of the things that you might want to think about and make some good decisions so that you can at least give yourself the best opportunity to be successful. It still may not work out, but you're giving yourself the best opportunity to be successful.